Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel here on YouTube, where we've got the TNT takes for you on Australian Survivor, Heroes versus Villains, Week 4. That's right, I'm your host, Chris, and with me tonight is my co-host, Kahuna. Kahuna, how you doing?
Very good. Thank you, Chris. Good to be here again after a fantastic week of Australian Survivor once again. Lots of stuff to talk about tonight, I'm sure.
Yeah, there has been a lot of things going on, and for those that have been following the channel, you would know that I haven't done my top 5 takes for episode 12, and I kind of look at my top 5 takes as kind of like crypt notes, you know, like after class you go and you make some notes, and it helps you remember things a bit better as well when you come into the longer format that is the podcast. So for those that really love the short form content that I do, for those that have been asking where the top 5 takes for episode 12 is, I'm so sorry. I have had the busiest week at work. It's been pretty insane, and I've just not been able to get to it. I might try and sneak it in on the weekend just before we get into the new week, if the long format, content, if I'm not giving you enough of my thoughts here. So Kahuna, if I do forget something, just remind me at some point.
Absolutely.
I'm sure
you're saving your top 5 takes for tonight. You got people in the live, they can react to them immediately instead of in the comments later. Top 5 takes straight away.
Welcome from the Spy Shack, Mucky. How you doing?
Exactly. Sneaky Steve, sneaky Mucky, just slithering my way into the live stream, you know? Who would have thought?
It's all smoke and mirrors.
Smoke and mirrors, baby. Smoke and mirrors.
Look at that.
Well, welcome to the live.
Yeah.
This is true dedication. Will joining us at 4:30 a.m. American time. I appreciate you being in the live.
Wow.
You're a real one.
Awesome.
You're a real one for getting up. Yeah. All right, let's get into all the action for this week. A lot happened. We start this week off with the aftermath of Paige, and it feels like that's like a lifetime ago that she's been voted out of the game, right? And Shonny and George both feel like they're on top of the world. Mucky, how did you feel about them making Stevie a domestic worker, having to clean around camp and make life easier for the king and the queen? What's your thoughts on that?
Honestly, as I said from day one, he's got that social game. Sneaky Steve knows what he's doing. He knows if you work hard, right, hard work, it pays off. That's how we all live life. You don't just wake up and you're like, oh, look at me, I'm the Prince of England. No, you wake up, you work hard, then you become the Prince of England. All right. So
that's how it goes. Everyone knows that.
Exactly. You do your 9 to 5, and then you're running like so many different countries around the globe. But anyway,
all I'm gonna say is, Kahuna, watch out Tony Robbins, because Mucky is on the loose, right? He's gonna be giving us the Tony Robbins speech from now on.
Exactly, bro. Exactly.
Do you want to be King of England?
Yeah. Oh, bro. If I was king, I'll be sent out of space.
I don't think we should be giving Mucky all that power. I reckon Mucky would be another Geordie Joker if he was getting too much power in the game, and we'll talk about that. But I wanted to get back to this episode here. Quite funny things happen here because Matt, Flick, and obviously Benji, they know they're on the outs now, and they're all going to George and kissing the ring, trying to get in there. Mucky, were you impressed by the strategy that all three of them had? You've got Matt and Flick both saying they'll be double agents, and Benji saying that he was intimidated by him.
Yeah, it's definitely quite weird, because it's like you don't want to suck up to George, but you kind of do, and I think with Flick, she probably had the best chance of sucking up to George, but definitely did quite like, everyone trying in their very different or similar ways to be like, George, I'm your most perfect ally here. Even though I just wrote your name down, I'm the perfect one for you. It's like, if your partner cheats on you or someone or something, and then it's like, actually, I'm the most loyal and the most honest person you'll ever be with, But yeah, no, it was definitely quite interesting. Yeah, but I don't know. It's either you're with George or you're not. And
yeah, it's interesting though, Kahuna, because it looked like George was more receptive of Matt's pitch than Flick's. I feel like he doesn't trust Flick as much.
Yeah.
He kind of said that it's an interesting proposal that Matt brought to him, and he didn't expect it.
Yeah,
I mean, George is always open to working with anyone if he thinks it will get him further in the game, right? If he thinks they can use them. And look, although he's got the majority right now. Come merge, if he can get any numbers his way, he's going to take it as well. And I think because of he was on the previous season with Flick. He's worked with her before, or not worked with her, but been on the season with her, and he probably knows where he stands with her and how hero strong she will be once the merge comes, and has that distrust there. But he took a shot with that as well, so he's open to anything and everything. And I think he has a good enough read sometimes. And if he doesn't, he's got Shani there to help about
She's been
whether it'll,
bulletproof him.
whether it'll actually be a good play or not. And we might see that play out coming forward as well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because he spoke a lot about Flick's social game and how good she is at that. So I think that's something that really intimidates him at this point. And Matt has been laying low. He's been trying to be low key. So he's probably coming across as a little bit less threatening, I would say, in the game at this stage. Gabe, I saw that first comment. I don't even know if I should bring it up because we've gone a whole 6 minutes in the episode so far without Mucky talking about Rogue, so I think we should keep it that way and see how long we can go this podcast without Mucky talking about Rogue. He also says Spice Girls, it seems, are going into the merge at a disadvantage in numbers. 100%. Yeah, I mean, they've been losing since day one due to the villains, the OG villains, just really sucking at challenges and being a lopsided tribe. So, and it does not help this episode because on the supervillains tribe, we hear from Liz, we hear from Geordie. This was a big week for Liz, by the way, as well. But we hear from both of them. They're on the outs and they really need something to change because they can see Simon just socializing and wiggling his way into that bigger boys alliance. And then in this episode, Simon goes and he makes a deal with them. It was kind of Sean who brought that to Simon's attention at first, saying, hey, I know how you can prove your loyalty to us. I know how you can get into the alliance. Give us your idol. What did you think of this gameplay here by Sean Kahuna and ultimately how Simon reacted to it?
I love that it was just another Dodo edit for Simon.
3 episodes in a row.
Yeah, the poor guy. Like you feel for him. But I think he had to really. Like he didn't really have that many options. He knows that Geordie already betrayed him. He probably wasn't feeling that close to Liz. I don't think he had a lot of anywhere to turn. And if Sean, the big strong man that he is the anchor in the storm kind of thing, he's going to throw himself at it. And he was just wanting the love of Sean, wanting to really get in with the boys. And you could see it. He's just a puppy dog. Please accept me. Please love me. Take my idol. He's even better. Flick. I'll try to, So he just wanted acceptance so bad. Poor bastard.
Mucky, can Simon Fabio his way to the end and win this thing?
No.
Not even Mucky. Like, listen, if Mucky does not think, with his crazy ideas sometimes, that Simon cannot go to the end, your game's dead in the water.
Straight up. No, I love Simon. He's such great TV. I actually just rewatched the challenge clip of like Flick calling him out, and everyone's kind of having a massive go. I feel so sorry for Simon. He's such a lovable guy, but yeah, he's like Meg and Family Guy. Where it's just no matter what he does, everyone's like, "Oh bloody hell, Simon!" Like he just can't catch a break.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's entertaining to watch, and he is so bloody good at doing those confessionals as well. Like he's really entertaining. Yeah. He really, his facial expressions are like the best facial expressions this season. So I feel like that's where the producers and the camera just love him. They just follow him around because he is such a big character. So at least he brings that. And Gabe here says, why did Sean swear on his kids? It made no sense. Simon only needed a hug, and he would have done anything that Sean would have said. Alan, welcome to the live as well. Honestly, give the Cookie Idol the best newcomer Logie Australian TV award because of the amount of content it's provided over the season. It has been phenomenal. Listen, that Cookie Idol, that's the best thing, the best unintentional thing the production did this season. They did not put that advantage out there thinking it was going to be like, it's had 4 weeks. It's had a story arc over 4 weeks to play out. That's longer than a lot of players have been in this game. Yeah. It's longer than Rogue has been in this game, right?
It's had more screen time than majority of the newbie
David
players.
Definitely had more screen time than David. It's been in front of the camera more often than him. So yeah, it was interesting to see. One thing I do want to give Simon though is that instead of that idol potentially being used against him to vote him out, he did at least have the foresight to say, let's get it into the other tribe. Let's try and, get it out of this tribe, use it to, he's got one plan, get George out of the game, give it to Flick, but at least that way he knows he's not going to get voted out with his own idol, so his own idol being used against him. So I will give him that. I don't know if he thought it through or not, but I like the fact that at least the idol made its way into the other tribe. What's interesting here is that they do a classic Survivor challenge where they've got these weighted bags and they have to run around in a circle in the water to catch each other. Obviously, the supervillains were always going to win this. I loved seeing the classic Survivor challenges come back, and this is one of those ones I've always really enjoyed. But it was just so lopsided, and you do end up getting the supervillains going to the reward mucky, and at the reward, they're all high on coffee. They're enjoying their coffee. I would have been exactly the same because I drink about 3 or 4 cups a day, and I would be like Shane, going in without a ciggies. Without my coffee, I'd be bouncing off the wall and using a rock to phone home, Blackberry.
You'll be using the rock to order your flat whites, your caramel lattes,
100%.
Yeah. No,
yeah, Starbucks on speed dial out to the island, please.
Exactly. Shout out to the editors on that one as well, by the way. The way they're probably just having fun conversations, but the way they cut it all together in such
and it looks so frantic.
Yeah, they're like, I want coffee high.
Yeah, it was really well done.
Yeah.
And what really stood out to me in this reward was that, Liz kind of, and I lost hope on Liz. She was in my top 5 players that could win, I think, after week 1 or 2. And then week 3, she just kind of disappeared. And I was like, I don't know if she's really a contender anymore. And she's in the wrong tribe. She's probably going to get voted out next. But she really came out this episode, explained her strategy of sitting back, on purpose, being introverted so people would forget about her, not keep tabs of what she's doing. And Mucky, she does what any Survivor fan would love to do. She sneaks away and goes idol hunting and finds one, Mucky.
I know. How exciting is that, I hate to bring this up again, but there's a lot of casuals online who thought that the idol was rigged for Liz to find. And they're like, it took Liz, 30 seconds to find an idol? Like, why does it take her 30 seconds to find an idol? It's like, mate, it's a 24/7 show.
30 seconds of editing.
Like, gosh,
It's the age-old one. It's the age-old conversation where people think the show's rigged and they're planting idols for people to win the game. I don't know why they would do it for Liz and why they wouldn't have wanted, again, even the whole argument about, and we'll get into this later on about Haley being saved and all that stuff. Why would they not want to save Geordie? Geordie is so entertaining. Why would they not say, well, let's just save Geordie in this specific spot? And they didn't do it. So for me, these things are pre-planned, and I don't agree with that. But I was happy to see Liz find one. She now knows that she's got it within herself to find an idol, and I feel like she's needed this time away from the likes of George and Shani to develop her own game plan, to find her own power within this game. And we already see on the next on Survivor, she's now had enough time away from George to have her own mind, and that's going to potentially cause some drama within the Spice Girls. We might have a breakup of the Spice Girls if George is being too much of a diva, because Liz now also has information that George is not privy to because she's spent time in that supervillains camp, right, Kahuna?
Yeah, absolutely, and took that time and use it to her advantage, building relationships on the sneak as well, by the way, like within a majority of the majority, to actually start building that. It was really quite impressive, while still remaining under the radar and unbeknownst to Sean and Haley at the same time, which is pretty great. I know you said you had her in your top 5 before, but I'm seeing this week, and I know it's recency bias, but she's
probably back in there. Yeah.
Oh, she's looking could imagine. I don't know if this will happen because of what we've seen so far as gameplay goes, but imagine in a season where we see the veterans dominate, that a rookie goes to the end and actually takes out George, takes out Haley, takes out that'd be phenomenal. As a storyline goes.
And also, if that happened, you would have to say that person would probably be the best to ever play because they were a rookie in a season full of veterans who knew what they were doing, where other people normally either come in at an equal footing of having played the game before against other people that have played before, or going up against newbies. So a newbie winning this show from this point forward would have one of the most impressive games that Australian Survivor has ever seen, if they can pull it off. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Liz is a big character. She probably could go very far, but history has shown us that the veterans are just taking them out one by one at the moment. They're lining them up. I do want to go into a couple of comments here just before we continue on. Gabe says, Simon is like Charlie Brown this season, like Owen in 43, who tries to catch the ball but just can't. And then Mark is saying the Cookie Idol's the newest member of the Spice Girls. CD Mac is saying Simon is really bad at playing Survivor. It's entertaining though. I feel for him. A Loyal, I haven't seen you in the live for a while. Welcome back to the live. One of the best seasons of Survivor worldwide so far. Mucky, do you agree with that?
I mean, absolutely. How can you not? And I was talking about this with one of my best mates because we both watched 2017 together. And personally, for me, that will always be my number one season. That's what got me into Survivor. And every other season I've seen since then, nothing's really come close to beating it until this season. I love every episode, even just more slower episodes. I still really enjoy it. Like, yes, the editing will always be an issue for Australian Survivor, but I feel like I really actually know everyone, and so many people feel like massive characters and massive players.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's interesting as well because one of the biggest criticisms I've had of Australian Survivor over recent seasons have been the non-elimination episodes, have been the advantages that's been put into the game. And hot take over here, Kahuna, I don't really hate any of the twists and the non-eliminations that they've brought in. They've made it interesting this season. You get Jerry going in as an undercover spy. That was an interesting twist that feels less wasted. You've got a mutiny happening, which I'm the biggest fan of mutinies, right? Like I always think back about it when it was done the first time with Candace and Jonathan Penner when they both went the other way. But I also appreciate the fact that they built in a safety mechanism here, because what happens if the whole tribe says we'll mutiny and it's merge?
Yeah.
But they built in that safety mechanism. But it's been, my point is that before we get to the mutiny, because we'll probably get back to it later on, I just really love the twists and how they're bringing it in. Do you feel like it's, these non-elimination episodes to me doesn't feel as wasted this season?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the non-elimination episodes are baked in. They have to, right? To get the number of episodes and hours out of it, they're going to need a cast of 50 if they want to do an elimination a vote out every single episode, right? They need to have them in order to stretch out to fill the episodes. And if you're gonna do them and it's baked into the recipe, why not make it awesome? And I love that they're trying new things. And actually, one of the advantages of being Australian Survivor is they've got such a rich history that went through so much development, showing what worked, what didn't work. And now Australia's like, we're just going crazy with it. We've seen the past, and we're throwing everything at it. We have to do something unique because of the specific circumstances we have in the Australian television market, and we're going to make it work now rather than just having it. Oh, no elimination tonight. We're going to make it actually worthwhile. You're right. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying the level of strategy that this season has brought as well. Obviously, a lot of strategy happening in this episode here as well. But I do want to read a few more of these comments because you guys are bringing in so many good comments. Let's have a look at Wool. I've noticed that they always show a crab on the beach or around camp before they show Stevie. Is this editing telling us something, Mucky?
It is. It is. As a storyteller, I used to be a director.
Watch out, Jonathan Penner.
Yeah, I'm a storyteller. That's what I like to do. As a director and a scriptwriter, I see what they're trying to do, because crabs are very sneaky. Every time you go to a beach and you find one, or hide under the sand, quick a squiggle around, and then it's gone. It's disappeared, right? Same with Sneaky Steve. He pops up for a bit. He's like, I'm the swing vote. But then he dies straight back down. No one's talking about Stevie, guys.
I feel like the crab signifies predictability because they can only move sideways and not forward. So it's basically showing us that Stevie is on a predictable downward spiral in the game. That's what I'm seeing in the storytelling.
all I gotta say, mate, is only your players in the draft are targeted this week, not mine. So talk all you want, mate. But
Gabe is saying Lister's end is looking good, going far. The stats don't favor newbie winners and half returning, half newbie seasons. We all are very aware of that. Tion is saying David getting his first confessional after a long time. Yeah, it was interesting to see him finally get some.
That's crazy.
Some content.
That's
We'll
so
talk about
insane.
that when we get to the episode. This season is easily at the top with season 2 and season 4. Damn the network for ordering mandatory amount of episodes. That's why non-eliminations happen. Listen, I've made peace with it. I've watched enough Australian Survivor now. If they do it this way, I'm okay. If they do it in a way where it feels like they're wasting my time for an hour, I'm not too happy about that. So make it interesting, at least when you're doing it like they're doing currently. So I'm okay with that. But let's move back to the episode. Couple of really big moves here. Obviously, Liz finds that idol. They get into the immunity challenge. They're busy losing it, and Liz says, we need the idol. I saw a lot of people, Mucky, very upset about the fact that Liz betrayed Shawnee's trust and ended up getting this idol from Shawnee. And now some people are saying that Shawnee's going to lose the game because she trusted Liz and gave her this idol. What is your thoughts on the fact that Shawnee wanted to save her number here?
Those exact people who complain about that are the same people who think it takes 30 seconds to find an idol. Just saying.
That's fine. Mucky came in with violence tonight, Kuna.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm
here for it.
He's normally this friendly, lovable guy. Tonight he's like, no, I'm taking names.
I've had it. I'm just done with the whole group. Survivor. So
this is what Mucky would be like on day 6 on the beach when he hasn't had food for 6 days. This is the Mucky you'd get out there.
Mate, it's day 1, bro. Day 1. I'm like, mate, I've had enough. No, I mean, it was definitely the right call to make because, they were definitely going to do like the Malcolm, Reynolds, Eddie tribal council, like with both of them are now immune. And Simon, everyone thinks he has an idol. So all 3 villains are technically immune if they have Shawnee's idol. So I don't think it was to betray Shawnee or anything. No. I think it was just to make sure that all of the villains were actually immune to that tribal council. So that I think
where people kind of got that idea from Kuna is because Liz wasn't truthful about the fact that she already had an idol, and she was like, I need the idol. And Shawnee ended up burning an additional idol there, and trusting Liz. Maybe Liz didn't have time to word that to her. Maybe there was a time constraint in trying to get that across because they only get short periods of time where they can sort of overlap.
Yeah, I mean, look, when I first watched it, I was like shocked. I was like, oh, that's a bit dirty. Like, but I think we haven't really got the full vision of how close their relationship was with Geordie. I think Shawnee gave it to Geordie, right? Wasn't it?
Yes.
Like in the handover, it wasn't.
And Shawnee mentioned multiple times throughout the edit that she has Geordie as a part of her plan moving forward in the game. Yeah. She wanted to play with Geordie.
So I was shocked at first, but I don't think the edit has given us how close they actually were because I think Geordie is very tight with Liz. Like we saw when, spoiler alert for the end of the episode perhaps, but how close they actually were when it came time to sleep. Yeah. And so, like there's obviously more there. And I think Shawnee knew that she was giving it to at least one of them. And she chose to give it to Geordie. So,
Yeah. Well, I guess let's have a quick read here at Ellen's comments here. She says, my draft team now consists of George and someone who's running the season, and then someone who's had 0 confessions. And David, I was so sad to lose Geordie. Also says Geordie's exit press has been great this week. Loads of insight, especially on his RAP exit interview. So maybe there is a little bit of additional information on how that sort of played out. But, Geordie gets this idol, and suddenly he's like the Kanye West song, no one man should have all this power. And he ends up, it goes straight to his head. He goes back to Geordie that I thought didn't play a good game last season and was lucky to be saved by a non-elimination twist and had to win his way to the end. He overplayed his hand. Now, did I like him as a character? Do I think he's entertaining? Yes. But I thought maybe not the best Survivor player. And this season, he impressed me up until this point. He kind of controlled his inner Mucky. But then suddenly Mucky had came out and he felt like he had to go and, go guns blazing this episode, holding both Nina and Haley's vote hostage. What did you think about that whole conversation and the way that he approached it? Do you think this is the way to make friends and alliance members out there?
Yes, it is definitely the best way to make friends. No, I mean, I think I think it was definitely the right thing to do, but they should have done it with small amount of time. Like Sean was ready to just
at
dump all the
tribal
votes onto
council.
Sam.
Do it at tribal council. Pull it out. Get both Shawnee and not Shawnee, Haley and Nina to the side and say to them, "Hey, I want to work with you guys, but you got to tell me a name, otherwise this might come to you, or something like that." Just create havoc in the moment instead of the way that they did it. I was surprised that they thought just because they forced someone to vote with them for one vote, they thought that they would automatically be in an alliance after that.
Yeah, I think it's more of the fact that since they got them to say the name, so it kind of showed like, hey, we're willing to take out your target. So if you tell us who you want out, we will vote them out. So that's how I think they kind of saw it. But I definitely agree. It's like, you're literally forcing them to say a name, not working with them. So definitely doing it at tribal council is a much better move for that type play.
Especially if you're going to fake it, right, Kahuna? Because I feel like if you're going to fake it, there's less time for people to think about the fact that you might fake it. There's less time for them to come up with a counter plan like they did in this episode.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he also even threw in a threat at the end of it as well. If I see you whispering, they're going to come your way. And that's, you're right. It's not going to win any friends, make alliances, especially for the long term. But you're like, I didn't like this play at all. I mean, I like the idea, like Mucky said, but you're right. Like, too much time. Sean came up with a great plan that, so sort of it. Like, let me stop for a second. I like the idea and the intent behind it. It sowed a lot of havoc and it made them crazy. But you're right. It gave too much time in between. But getting Sean to actually put Sam's name out there was pretty crazy. Like,
yes.
to Nina and Haley, and it showed.
Well,
Sam.
Haley was the first person who did it, by the way. So when the conversation happened between Nina, Haley, and both Liz and Geordie, they were constantly saying, "Well, who do you want? Who do you want?" Nina was kind of the one who gave them a bit of more information, but then Haley was the one who threw Sam's name out first, which was interesting because we later on find out that Nina is closer to Sam than what Haley and Sean potentially is in the game.
Yeah,
with David. So this kind of gave away Haley and Sean's position within the game. Clearly, Haley and Sean are, from him wanting to go and vote her out, they're now probably each other's number ones in this game by the way that the votes have been dropping.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, really could have done a lot of damage and play the idol. Like
just play the idol. Like, I couldn't believe it when I was sitting there. And the funny thing is that you could see that they literally threatened, listen, if you start whispering at tribal council, we may change it to you. You might be in danger. They start whispering. Liz notices it. Liz has the idea in her mind of playing it, and she's like, I don't trust this. We should be playing. And he's like, trust me, babe. Don't play it. Don't play it. And I think Liz learned from this experience because she took advice from Geordie a couple of times here because he's played the game before, but drastically failed in front of her. So I think this is another reason why she's going to be more reluctant to let other people run her game because, if they just try to vote differently, like if they put votes on Liz is gone. Like, she also made the incorrect play here by not playing it. She's just lucky that the vote ended up going to Geordie in this spot. Yeah. And it was such a sad and anticlimactic way to see the Joker leave because if he could have survived this one episode, Sam immediately afterwards heard that he knew he had 4 votes coming his way, that he was very close to going home. Cracks were supposed to be forming from this point. You could have had David didn't look like he was happy about the fact that he had to lie to Sam, who he's very close to in the game. But it's either I tell him about it and it could come my way and then I get voted out, or I have to keep it a secret at this stage.
Especially because David came to him and said, how about we make it Simon? The fact that Gabe mentioned it earlier, the fact that Sean swore on his kids as the only thing, like, why did he do it in the first place? But also, man, like, you're putting our games at risk because you're going to save Simon. Like, get rid of Simon.
Listen,
like,
you can do whatever the hell you want to do. If you want to throw a vote towards Geordie, then do it. Let the rest of the alliance. I mean, you gave your word. I didn't give my word. I didn't swear on my kids. So you do whatever the hell you want to do. Let us do what we need to do in the game.
That could be the start of that crack where we saw the alliance with Sam and David. Like,
and
they
the exact
could really
next episode
turn on him. Yeah, absolutely. They could really it could slip away very fast for Sean and Haley here. Or Haley. I mean,
I think it's happened, and
Yeah.
dare I say, Mucky, Sam's been getting a lot of flack, rightfully so, because he's all about mateship, and us Survivor diehard fans don't want to see it. We're like, give us the villainous players, give us the people that will betray their mother, vote her out. Like, so what was her name?
Sierra
did. Give us that. Or give us what Nina did last season in Australian Survivor. You know what I mean? Like, give us that type of cutthroatness. But I said on my top 5 takes, it's like a sleeping giant is awakening in Sam, because he had good reads in that episode, and he continues to have good reads through this episode and the next. So I feel like Sam has the instincts to become a great player. And we spoke about this off air, Mucky, but dare I say, Sam is in my top 5 at this point. Like, he's had a consistent edit from the start. He's always been in the backdrop. If he makes moves and suddenly creates his own alliance, who's to say Sam can't go to the end and win this thing?
Yeah, exactly. I'm actually quite shocked to say that a lot of people don't like Sam, because I personally watch Survivor for your mates, for your friends. That's what really just draws me into the show. Sam's playing a great game, and I think we'll remember him for how he treated Nick, but he was actually quite good at the strategy, especially towards the end. He noticed how Lee and Al are building a lot of momentum, so maybe they should try and cause a flip. Obviously it didn't work out, but he's definitely thinking a lot more about the game, and I think he sort of realized that, well, I'm at the bottom of the alliance here. Liz has an idol, and I actually think the main reason why Sam did flip is simply because Geordie is out. I think if Geordie's still there, Sam probably won't flip.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Two people there, because I think he knows once Liz is gone, he's already received 4 votes. It's coming his way next. So yeah, Sam's playing great. He knows where he stands, and he knows what he needs to do to make it further. And I can see Sam, as ironic as this is, potentially working with George in the future.
Yeah, I am waiting for that team up. I'm waiting for the team up of the most villainous player in the game playing with the most heroic player in the game. And I think it would be so funny to see that alliance happen. Gabriel says, if it wasn't filmed, I wouldn't have believed that it was Sam. Ellen says, Geordie said in his Arab exit that he was never intending to use the idol. It was there as a way to form an alliance with Haley and Nina. I think, and I spoke about this, and I don't know if the rules have changed around this, but Mark and Sam, because they played together so closely in their season, the episode that Sam got voted out, they left both idols at camp so that whoever came back would have 2 idols in their pocket. I don't understand why Liz and Geordie didn't say the same thing. They're like, listen, we're this close, we're this tight, we want our alliance to have power at the merge, or at least stay in the game a bit longer. If we're never going to play it, why take it with us to the tribal council? Why don't just leave it somewhere at camp where we can go and get it afterwards? I just don't get it, for me.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
and he was on the season. He was.
Yeah, he should have taken notes of what they did. CD Macchia says Liz was threatening Nina and Haley. Gabe says Sean and Haley went from top of heroes to the bottom and they don't realize it. Sean's out of my top 5 right now. I think he doesn't see the axe coming, but I'm still waiting for him to.
Fugazi.
I'm still waiting and hoping he knows when to play the idol, but at this stage, it's looking like he may not have even an inkling, like that. Maybe if Haley gets voted out, he'll know he's on the outside, because it seems like they're going to go for her first. A Loyal says, could merge come next week, Chris? I think it will. I think merge will come next week.
What are we at? 14, 13 now.
There was a promo. It came out like a few hours ago, I think. And
it'll have to be at least one episode with the mutiny person and the other tribe, and then merge. I'd say
it's a promo.
Probably.
React to it. Watch it.
Yeah. Let's make a reaction.
Get the content out
right now. Yeah, exactly.
So very interesting moves here, but also this episode, not only did we get Sam awoken and suddenly talking about game and strategy and turning his back on his good old mates, we get Nina finally getting a voice and talking about strategy. I mean, we've just been screaming for it the whole season, but we find out that Nina's been playing the game in easy mode. She's been letting things happen around her, but she's now noticing that it's the time to start making moves and take out the power structure. What did you think of Nina's performance and, getting close with Liz here and coaching both Sam and David on how to approach Liz? as well, and how to bring her in? Were you impressed by the bit of Nina content? Mikey?
Yeah.
Sorry. I thought
Yeah,
you
sorry.
were talking to Hinda. Sorry. Tonight's just not my night. No, yeah, I loved it, and I actually think it actually makes a lot of perfect sense. Actually, on maybe why we haven't been seeing as much of her, because we had all the drama with the villains going on for week 1 and 3, and most of this week as well, but also quite easy votes as well on the heroes as well. I mean, it was massive blindside on Rogue. Let's not forget about that. But yeah, with like sending Jerry over and then the Ben and Shani drama, quite simple votes because it's just chipping away everyone at the bottom. So I do think maybe Nina was just cruising it. She was just relaxing. She was just relaxing. She's in the majority sort of waiting to strike. And I think you can't really show that, that's not what's going to hit the big marketing team to draw viewers in. But the big bombastic George, that's definitely going to bring people in. So I think now that since Nina has, awoken and started making moves, we're going to see a lot more screen time of her, I reckon.
She's got a cutthroat ability about her, so I want to see that. And Kahuna, we haven't seen any of the dynamic between her and David much, but David's been very much front and center when it comes to those conversations at challenges, telling people on the other side, flick little bits of information and strategy and directing them on what to do. So it does look like he's got a strategic brain, and you would assume Nina wouldn't, align with anyone if they weren't capable.
I can't wait for his exit interview. He's just going to be like, what the hell did they do to me, man? Because we're clearly missing a lot. Nina said that David's her number 1, but she also said that Sam is his number 1. So David is in the middle of all of
two
these.
People.
Yeah, and he seems to be sitting really pretty. You're right. He busts out the first confessional ever and actually talks strategy. And it's weird that they've kept him so pegged when they're now revealing that there's clearly a lot going on that we haven't seen the entire time.
Yeah,
it's just like Josh.
Yeah, well, Josh, I will say Josh had more content. Even at this stage, there were episodes that Josh had content. His content started maybe 2 or 3 episodes prior to the merge. It could be about the same time as maybe, how David is only really starting to emerge now. It could be. You're right. And it clearly Nina has a type as well that she aligns with within the game, because she aligned with Josh in that season. So if he is the Josh of this season, it kind of makes sense. She wants to align with someone that is seen as a bit of a leader, someone that's strong, that she can have as a shield in front of her in the game. Gabe says, Nina finally, is she getting the rare Benji edit? It could be, because Benji started appearing around this time in the game and then became the biggest player of his season. Ellen is saying, I think because Geordie is gone, it's enabled more people to get screen time, which I'm grateful for, 100%. Tion saying, true Kona, and that's to your comment about David and where his head's at, and him clearly being more strategic than what he is being portrayed as.
Yeah.
Zuduman, good morning. Early morning for you as well, being on the live. It's always great to have you. Gabe saying David is the Josh spot like last season. Great spot, but edit isn't telling us much. And Marcus saying, I reckon David might get screwed over late in the game, but the show doesn't want us to root for him. Yeah. Ciao, dude. Welcome back to the live. So in this specific episode, we have the exchange, or is it well, basically we've had the exchange of idols up until this point. Simon has already given his cookie idol to the other side.
Yep.
And they throw the challenge, which is the right thing to do, because George has a very big reaction to the fact that Geordie's been voted out of the game. He declares war, Kahuna, on the other tribe. We've never seen this before. And he says, I've got 2 hostages in my tribe, and I'm not afraid to start cutting loose some dead weight in the tribe.
I love how much actually happens on the mat. The more than
only an Aussie. Only an Aussie.
Yeah,
survivor.
Only an Aussie. They just let him go loose, and JLP will interact and get more out of him like it's a tribal council. And George just knows how to work that camera every single time. He'll throw things out there. He may not be able to work the people as well socially, but he's throwing 100, and he's saying, catch this, and he knows what's going to hit on TV. He knows what looks good, but will it work? We'll see. But I mean, it's brilliant when he does that. It's brilliant.
We now know why Stevie We now know why Stevie said he's the guy that walks into a pub that everybody wants to punch, Kahuna.
I mean,
And for
Stevie's got
Stevie, but for Stevie, who's such a lovely guy, you know, so peace-loving guy, to say that, you know, that's pretty strong fighting words from him there, Kahuna.
yeah. I mean, and then he'll go turn around and suck up his ass a bit more about how he's such a legend and stuff.
Hey, Stevie is definitely doing that for
sneaky.
game.
It's sneaky, okay? It's sneaky Steve, okay? It's all part of the long game.
Oh, bit of controversy around that this week actually. I don't know if did any of you see the article written about how Ben was such an outsider?
No, I haven't seen it. Tell us.
Yeah, well, we've mentioned before that Ben was a complete outsider, and we weren't sure whether it's because he's gay or because he's Asian or whatever the case may be. He seems to be on the outside. But this article, I think it's Pedestrian TV, TV, an Australian organization that writes about TV shows and stuff like that, and mentioned that it's not uncommon. The sneaky Asian is a stereotype that is xenophobic and bedded deep in racism. And they mentioned just even this season we had literally Sneaky Steve. He's called
Way would have been the first person out her season of George Didn't Save Her.
Mimi went early. It basically said like Mimi went to the cookies. They're calling her like sneaky. Geordie saw her, said she's a bit sus. Then Simon does the exact same thing and they praise him for finding it, right? Like Ben is trying to do all these things that he's loyal down to a fault, to the point where he absolutely should have flipped, but there's something shifty about him. I can't quite put my finger on it. And the article is really interesting that people love Australian Survivor, but there's something there where others that are not part of that common core group that they seem to cast often get put to the outside. And he's asserting that it's a subtle, maybe unconscious racism, which is a fascinating take on it.
That is very interesting because, you know, obviously we get these conversations happening quite a lot in the US show. The US show is so much more aware of...
They've adapted to that, right?
They've adapted
changed
to it,
yeah.
And then in Australia, you've got a country that... I haven't seen the latest census numbers, but what is the breakdown of population there? Would you say it's at least in the 80% of the country is white? At least it's a very high margin, right?
I don't know actually, but
I'm pretty sure it is. I'm pretty sure
it's where you're from. Like I'm from Southwest Sydney, which is a very multicultural area.
It's like Auckland and New Zealand. It's very multicultural. Yeah,
like my daughter is in year 1 at the moment, and there's literally one white kid in her entire class, and it's very different where you're from. Like Southwest Sydney is lower socioeconomic area, which is a lot more ethnic. So I'm used to seeing Asians. We have Chinatown, Cabramatta, Hurstville, where there's, because of our location, obviously similar to New Zealand, but more so, we're literally underneath Indonesia. There's so many Asians in Australia. Like we're used to that, but when that started, there was maybe something that crept into the subculture or the subconscious of society, and it's playing out on TV a little bit. And I'm sorry to get real serious and stuff, but
no, it's fascinating, and obviously,
and
obviously for you, Kahuna, being like you've got Filipino heritage as well, right? So I'm assuming this is something that you'd be very conscious about and have potentially experienced elements of this in your day-to-day life, even.
Yeah, look, it's not that I see it too much affecting me personally, but I'm more aware of it now that I have kids as well, that I want them to see that representation. And I do sort of get excited when I see an Asian and you kind of go, oh, because it was just never a thing growing up. And it's not like you were upset that it didn't exist because you didn't know any different, right? And then when it does start popping up and you get excited only to see them kind of tread on and like not really having the same go of it, you know what I mean? Like the article even mentioned as far as like Wu goes, right? Wu and Tony, he was Weasel Wu. Tony's literally in Spy Shacks and he's the greatest player ever. But Wu's like Weasel Wu. Like the way,
but you know the story. You know the story.
Specific.
You know the story behind Wu, right? And why he was called Weasel Wu. Do you know the story of why that nickname was given to him?
Did he say it in season? I think I remember something.
No, he didn't. He stole a lot of food from production and he stole medication from Trish. So that's why they started calling him Weasel Woo, because Kaz came out saying that he cheated basically in the game and that production had to tell him off for it.
Okay,
so that's
he's
why.
like
So there was a behind, and I'm
the
not.
stereotype.
Yeah, so there was some stuff that happened there, and again, it just makes Jericho's win that much more impressive, right? Because he went out and won. I still love Jericho as a player, and I thought he played a really good, solid game, and it just really puts his win out there as one of those ones that are sort of, it's a rare beacon with an Australian survivor. But it's interesting. I do think, if I was to be critical just on Benji's game, there's certain things he didn't do well. Creating an idol in front of everyone, there's not much of a point in my mind in doing that. That does create suspicion, but obviously these returnee players were looking for something to hang him by. Going to George and telling him that he was threatened by George and that George is such a big player, I don't think George felt too comfortable knowing that someone is saying that to his face, and he probably wouldn't want Benji around. So I mean, I think there's I'm not defending because I don't know better, but I saw snippets of things that I was like, okay, I can see why people don't trust him here. And then Sneaky is calling himself Sneaky, so he wants to be Sneaky Steve. In this episode, he's even making up numbers that don't exist. He's counting numbers here, Mucky, for this vote. And Shawnee is like, do I have to draft in one of the crabs? Do I need to get, again, Sneaky Steve's crab to vote with him?
It's all part of the Grandmaster plan. It really is, because all this time, right, Stevie, he's like the swing vote, right? I think he may have potentially wanted George accidentally voted out so then he can still play both sides, Unfortunately, he didn't get his way, but, we see time and time again, right? Winners at War is a prime example. Everyone was scared to vote out Boston Rob. People were worried that, Parvati, if they took out Parvati, there could be a lot of damage done there. So that's why they went for Ethan, the third social player. And I think Sneaky Steve potentially saw himself as a third player. So he intentionally moved himself down. He intentionally put a Philip Shepherd and moved himself further down, because then now everyone sees him as the swing vote. They're all being like, Steve, Destiny. They're not going, hey, Jerry, mate, let's go catch a plane to
I just found it, Kahuna. I just found it hilarious that Simon thought he still had any sway with Sneaky Steve. When Sneaky Steve told him, you're clearly not my mate at that tribal council. Yeah. And he's like, you gotta just do this triangle, and you'll be, sweet as gold if somebody does that. They'll join you and just say, Destiny. And it was funny to see them trying to convince him to come over. But the one thing I didn't like, Kuna, about Sneaky Steve, and I'll talk to you because you can be objective about this, is the fact that he was running back and forth between alliances and making his own alliance worry about him. I actually said on my top 5 takes, I feel like Jerry potentially may have climbed above him in the pecking order now because of how he played this.
Steve had a bad week. I think the edit was not kind to him, all through his own fault. Oh, no, actually, he did have a redemption. Sorry, he had a bad episode, probably. A couple of really... I don't like the way he played that at all. And again, he's just trying to do more than he's probably capable of. When he tried to take out George, it ended up being a blubbering mess on the beach. And now he's trying to be like, while, we opened this episode talking about how he's literally serving them, right? That's how he's bowing and scraping to them. He's like, can I do smoke and mirrors with them? And they're like, no, man, just relax. He still wanted to do smoke and mirrors. I don't know if he was actually genuinely testing or he thought he was like putting them off the scent a little bit, maybe. I have no idea, but
Sneaky just wants to be a big game player so badly that he just wants to. I just want to be a part of the plan, and want to create these, great TV moments, which George does instinctively well, and I feel like Sneaky wants to do it, but Sneaky does it unintentionally, if that makes sense. Mucky, Sam here says, I feel like Shawnee, Jerry, and George probably should have handled Steve's silliness a bit better.
Well, sometimes it's not all about handling, but it's about running through it. I see your argument, Kahuna, of, he tried to take out George, but then he was crying on the beach. Let's not forget, George's first ever episode, he takes half his tribe away and thoroughly explains to them why each and every single one of them are weak and like useless, and that's why he saved them. You know, we're all got to start from somewhere, and then we become great legends. Okay, you know, let's not forget Luke's first ever tribal council. Like he failed to pull off a blindside. His first ever one.
Who sings the song started from the bottom? Now we hear is it Drake?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
he's
got
trying
no
to be
idea.
Drake. That's his theme.
I listened to 2 songs on repeat for like as long as I've ever lived, so I've got no idea about Drake. But you know, Sneaky Steve, you know, like he's a wee bit chaotic, but this was going to propel him forward because yes, everyone is like, oh, Sneaky Steve, oh, he's doing this, that's pretty, you know, loosey goosey, lemon screusy, but no one's actually like, let's vote out Steve.
But no one's actually going to really trust him properly either.
But he's needed.
Too chaotic and too unpredictable. And I think he could actually, because of his unwavering. So what we're seeing now, if I'm doing the maths in my head, we've got like factions, right? That when we come to the merge, there'll be the Spice Girls. There could be, and that's kind of merged with Liz's like Sam, Nina, David thing. And I think when it comes to those two groups going at each other, Liz loves Shawnee, loves George, but who is she going to want to sit next to? And I think that could sway. Steve is going to be, if he's a swing vote, he's never going deep with anyone. If you're the swing vote, you are not part of the core. And therefore, whichever one you swing to, you're now at the bottom each time.
Yeah. And I think RCRC kind of points out to this and says, guys, let's be honest. King George will soon find out about Liz and Nina's friendship, and George will have no other choice but to get Shawnee to go against her. So thinking that, I don't know if it's against Nina or against Liz. I don't think they're going against Liz. I think that if they wanted Liz all for themselves, they would go against Nina, but they would be dumb to do so at this stage because they need the numbers when it comes to the merge. They don't have the numbers. So the fact that Liz has got Nina as a friend and potentially could bring 2 numbers with Nina to George's side, I think will be a very, very good thing for George and Shawnee in the game. They need that. They need those OG heroes to split up, I think, at the merge for them to have a chance in the game. A couple more comments that I want to read here. Brendan says, speaking of ethnicities, I'm Jewish. I'm the only Jewish the only Jewish cast that have been casted so far is Benny, Birdo, and Rogue. Not great representation for us. Benny was fun.
I'd like to disagree with that comment, actually. I love Benny.
There we go. It took us 52 minutes this time. It's a new record for Mucky, but he's in the dog box. I cannot hear him talk about Rogue again. Are you going to behave, Mucky? Both
Benny and Rogue played themselves out of the game. That's great gameplay. Lasted for 1 episode, but it's still great gameplay.
I don't know if you understand
the aim of the
purpose.
Game.
Yeah.
Claims to be a super fan, but he doesn't understand that. Benny was fun. I feel like Benny would have been, if he was deeper in the game, would have been a wild character. He's just such a wild personality, that one, you know. Let's have a look at a few more comments here. Chadu is saying, who's your winner pick at this stage, Mucky?
I've said it from day one. It's Shawnee.
Yeah, I think Shawnee's got a good shot
because I think she's protected by shields. You know, she's got George. She's got, you know, I think Sean and Haley are going to make the merge. She's got a great ally in Liz. You know, a lot of people are actually working for Shawnee, and yes, you kind of got Flick and Matt, you know, who are kind of on the bottom, but we see Flick like really bonding with Shawnee, and even Flick could potentially be a shield for Shawnee because Shawnee's not the best known for challenges, which is funny because she does win quite a lot of individual challenges. So.
I tell you what, Sam has got to, like, firstly, if Shawnee makes that final 3, Shawnee wins in a landslide. But I like the fact that they're putting Simon in there because you've got to ask yourself, Kuna, why is Simon consistently getting such a good edit? Like, the cameras love him. He gets followed. If you were out there right now, why would you not want to sit next to Simon at the end of the game? He's had 0 things right so far. He hasn't been able to do anything. He's a dog without a home, like Sean said.
It's true. He's not getting any votes if he goes. So you're right. He should be an absolute goat. You want to take him for sure. But I don't know, like, how he fits into the relationships. Like I said, with the factions that are seeming to be forming, he's not going to get into any of them to be able to get to the end. You know what I mean? Like, if there's these groups of 4 or 5 that are going at each other, and I do think, like, if it's the Spice Girls versus, and I think Liz will go to the Sam, Nina, David group, and it's those 4, those four, then there's Matt, Flick, Sean, Haley at the moment. So we'll see who gets voted out. But if the number, so there could actually be at 12, 3 groups of 4 squaring off against each other, which will be fascinating. But I think someone asked for the winner's pick. I'm going with the Liz, Sam, David group. I think someone out of that. I'm
if
picking
that group does get to the top, you know who's got my vote. It's got to be Nina. Yeah, I want Nina to get there in the end, but I don't think she's got the edit. I think Sam wins in that case. I feel like Sam's had consistency from the beginning and has been a part of the story. So I just feel like he could have like this, started as a hero. What's that thing? Lived long enough as a hero.
Left to be a villain, yeah.
Left to be a villain.
As Simon says, the opposite. And then
Whatever
you fumble it and try to repeat it again for the camera to get it right. And they kept it in the edit. Oh my God, they do that man so dirty. He
I love it.
repeated himself to get it right. So you got a good edit, a clean line out of him, and they left it in. It's so great.
I loved, like, even during the challenges, JLP rips into him. I think it was with the ring toss challenge. JLP is like, well, is Simon once again going to be the tosser?
Chadu,
He was
no
also the one that was teasing the ring with his pole.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Chadu, no chance. No chance George gets to the end and win this game. I just don't see George being socially aware enough or willing to let his pride go to suck up to a jury. Like, I honestly feel like he is, in a lot of ways, Russell Hahns of Australian Survivor. Like, I love the fact that he's got a great strategic mind. He's great TV. I'm a big fan of him. But I don't know if he's got the ability, because I feel like he's consistently pissing people off out there. Even this next episode, which we'll talk about in a second. We haven't even gotten into the 3rd episode. So let's proceed with this episode, because this was a big one. They go to Tribal Council. The fake cookie idol is in play. The one person in Flick's Alliance that can tell her what she's got in her hands, she doesn't trust enough to show the clue to. Because if she did, they could have both faked it out there and said, hey, we've got 2 idols, which I think would have caused enough chaos for them to cut a Jerry or a Steve in that moment. I think it would have caused some havoc, because now you've got to select the one person right that doesn't have an idol, and that's a risky proposition. But George tries to Jedi mind trick Flick here into throwing her idol into the fire kahuna. I thought, well, like some people in the comments said she should have done it. JLP thought she should have done it. He told her afterwards, well, that would have been a better deal than having a fake idol. I actually think she played it correctly with the knowledge she had. In her mind, she had an idol. And I don't believe that Shani, as she said, would have done it. I don't think anybody would have done it in that scenario. And it's not the right plan to throw your idol in the fire. People said it was such a great TV moment. Yes, for George, it would continue to build his resume as this godlike player out there. But I don't think it would have looked good on Flick to do that.
I mean, it was great for George, like, to put her to that. I think really put her in kind of an unwinnable position, because I don't necessarily think she did the right. I don't think she did the right thing in the end, but I also don't know what would have been the optimal outcome either. I would have liked to be able to come out of it somehow on George's side. Maybe if she said to George, "I tell you what, I'm not throwing in the fire, but I'm going to play it on me, and then you go nuts with the other 2." Ben and Matt, they're your people. I'll vote whichever way you want me to vote, but my idol's on me tonight, right? And then maybe you're building a relationship. Maybe you can come out with something, because the way she played it in the end by putting it on Matt is another shot at George again that she missed. And so not only was it like, well, now you're screwed coming out of it because your numbers are gone completely, but or would have been, like, potentially, but losing Ben, but could have actually come out of it maybe holding on to some form of relationship with George until merge, and then she gets to get back with her hero clan and actually gets through. But taking another shot at George, I don't know, is a good outcome.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Go Dave here says Nina might emerge. A good pun there. And Lachlan said, who's been more screwed by Survivor as a whole, Phoebe or Simon? I think Phoebe, because Simon's kind of screwing himself.
I mean, like, yeah, I guess, like, Simon, he was screwed in terms of he never had the clarity of, is this an idol or not? I mean, I
He's
doubt
found 2 idols before. Like, it's not like this guy's never found an idol on Australian Survivor and he doesn't know that there's a clue that comes with it.
Yeah,
Like, he's got more experience than most. That's, I think, why they felt like he lied, because they're like, surely you're a person who's found idols on the show before. You know what it looks like and what you should be getting with it.
But also with Phoebe, she told David her clue. So it was more she was outplayed. But then again, I guess it might be better. Because I don't think she was... I mean, she was definitely screwed by the tribe swap in season 1. And I guess in All Stars as well. But I feel like... I mean, what really screws over a player? Screwing yourself over, or someone else like intentionally, brutally manipulating you? Yeah.
Brendan here says, I reckon the jury would go easier than Brains versus Brawn, as majority will be returnee players and less likely to be vindictive. It's also well known that a lot of people on that Brains versus Brawn season weren't the biggest fans of the show. So for them, they were like more about the personal relation, which that's Survivor. I don't want to be too bitter about it, but I was like that one person that was like, George played the best game that season. He should have won, and he didn't. So I don't know if that answers your question, Chadu, that I would have probably voted for him. But then again, he's not annoying me every day out there on the island. If I was actually living there with him, I don't know if my vote would have gone for him. Like, I don't know how I would feel by the end of the season, Kuna.
With the makeup of the players that are left, though, being that it's been a rookie slaughter the entire way, that theory holds a little bit more water, that there's going to be so many of the big players getting deeper in the game rather than taken out early. They might respect George's game a lot more.
Well, this very next episode, and this is why I feel like George is not doing himself any favors, right? It's not enough for him to insult Simon at the reward and say, like, Simon, you clearly don't know what you're doing, after Simon says he's clueless. But he also has got to rub it into Sean's face. Sean, I can't believe you were fooled twice with a fake idol in Survivor. Like, he just needs to always rub it in that little bit more, Kuna.
That was great because it was a twofer. Like, it was at Sean, but really that was another Simon shot, saying Simon did you dirty again. Like, building that distrust between Simon and Sean, like really trying to cement it like it wasn't there already. But yeah, it was good.
And Sean can't feel good about the fact that he was duped once before. You know, that's like a little bit of insecurity that he's sort of tapping into. But I feel like him just being that aggressive guy, like that's how he is. But I don't think it's making friends necessarily out there. And I don't know how that's going to play out when it comes to a vote. But this was a really cool challenge, though, Maki. But apparently there was so much controversy by the end of this over Stevie. Tell us what happened. You said there was some controversy about cheating and Stevie being favored in this challenge.
Oh my gosh, yes. So I just want to say, every time I slander casuals, these are real comments from real people on the real internet. I'm not making this stuff up. This is true. So I was having like a wee scroll through Facebook.
So it's not like Stevie's numbers.
No. So I was having a scroll through Facebook, and I came across like a post about the challenge, and I saw that there's this one comment. I should have written down the full comment. It was so funny. But people were saying that the challenge was rigged for Stevie because he wasn't wearing his glasses. Because apparently glasses are way more heavier than clothes. So when you take the glasses off, it's actually less weight on you, so you're much more able to tread through water easily.
Is that
it's
legit?
like
Was that a joke?
Legit. No. It was like a legit
know.
comment, like about the challenge.
I don't know, Kona, if
it.
you're
I broke.
I don't know if you or anybody in the live watch anime, but it kind of reminded me of Naruto and Lee when he had the weighted arm things on around his legs and his arms, and when he dropped it, he was that much faster when he punched and kicked, So it's kind of like Stevie's been training for this his whole life. He takes off his his glasses, he's getting the neck in there with the ring,
That's great.
Gets the win against an Olympian athlete out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Facebook comments, man, on Survivor are some of the dumbest things I've
You
ever
would lose
read
brain
sometimes.
cells reading that. You would honestly lose brain cells reading some of that stuff. That is one of the funniest things I've ever. Yeah, here we go. We've got another one person at least knows good TV. Rock Lee versus the Sand guy. What was his name? I forgot his name. Gara. Lachlan's Land know what I'm talking about. It was a fun challenge. But throughout this challenge, the other thing that sort of stood out for me, because we don't really talk about challenges too much, I kind of find it weird because, like, we talk about these double standards in the game of Survivor. People were cheering George on when he threw Simon's ring back for him to go catch. But when Simon did the same thing to George, people were like, nah, come on, mate, don't do that. Play a fair game. And they were like having a go at him for returning the favor, Kahuna.
I think it was the distance. George did it at the start of the game, and it was, George can only throw so far, but Simon yeeted that thing into like the stratosphere, and George didn't even get back in time to even have another shot. It was so far gone. And it's at the end when you're already tired, when you've climbed over the thing and ran through the water, they're like already tired as hell. And he's like, yeah, run, go get it. It felt a little bit meaner at the end than it does at the start, I think.
I think it's fair. All's fair in love and war, Monkey.
Oh, fair completely, but I can see why it would have felt that way.
As I said, Simon is Meg from Family Guy. It doesn't matter what he does. He could have just like dropped it a centimeter in front of him, and everyone still would have been like, "Oh, Simon, come on, mate!"
It's also like Simon versus George. He looks like a bully picking on like no matter what. When the underdog does something to the big guy, they cheer. When the big guy's pummeling on the little guy, it's just mean. Like it's that's the way it is.
Gabe here. How dare you? One Piece over Naruto. Like One Piece is good, but I mean Naruto's Naruto. I've got to go with the ninjas here, not the pirates. Willie saying taking off fogged up glasses is a life hack. Listen, overall Simon, he's kind of distraught after this. Doesn't know where to go. Doesn't know who to talk to. Everybody's having a go at him. And he's talking to Sam. He's apologizing. He's apologizing to Sean. Everybody's telling him the person you should apologize to is not in this camp, making him feel even worse because he can't apologize to Flick, who's in the other tribe. It was a really bad episode for him. And I think it was in the beginning of this episode where Liz also had a go at him before all this came to light. So he literally, at this point, is as low as you can go in this game.
That was so awkward. That was the most awkward moment as well when Liz walked off on him. He's like, yeah, but... okay. He had nothing because like she just straight out called him out. It was so great. Poor Simon, man. He's just he's right. Someone said it before, Charlie Brown. He's constantly getting that ball pulled out on him.
Yeah, he's definitely in the I think he's had a worse run compared to Owen. Like I'd really feel like he's had a worse run than Owen at this point. Owen also nothing went his way. He couldn't get the alliances going, but Simon's had some, I don't know, like it's almost like he's gone that one step further because he wants to be an active player. And Owen knew to sit back at times, maybe sat back a few times too much in his season. But in any case, looking at this, and I forgot Kona has not watched some of the recent seasons, so he doesn't even know who I'm talking about. But, looking at this specific episode, Simon is on the outs. He knows he's probably going to cop some votes coming his way. But he sits out of the immunity challenge. Make that make sense to me, Mucky. Like your butt's on the line and you don't compete.
I think it was mostly everyone wanted to throw that challenge. So I think it was more everyone probably convinced him to sit out more than he chose. Yeah,
I would have been like, I'm sorry, I'm competing.
Yeah.
I'm like, sorry, I'm competing. If you're like, it's clear that he's at the bottom after that, right? It was pretty damn clear.
Yeah. I think there's two ways.
To him too. He was like sitting on the bench, like basically crying every time the heroes, got a puzzle right. He was like head in hands every single time. It was crazy. He knew it from the start.
Gabe says Simon just wants to make the merge this time, even if he realizes his game is screwed. And then Will here with the comment of the night saying, Simon's game reminds me of my 6th grade summer camp experience. It sounds like you were scarred from it, Will. Not great, obviously, with the tribe throwing it, but some really high-level gameplay happening in this episode, and this is why people hate it. Like, if we objectively look at why does Australian Survivor sometimes suck? Because sometimes it does. It's because you get beautiful moves being orchestrated like the one that Nina, Sam, Liz, and David tried to pull off in this specific episode where Hayley's head was on the chopping block. They were going to go for the queen. They were going to chop it off. It was the perfect time to do it before the merge. And obviously there's going to be a twist here that's going to save her at the end of this. There was a lot of backlash about this, Kahuna. I've come to Mucky quite a few times for the controversial comments, but people believe that Hayley was saved by production at this spot. Again, like when she had to go to Redemption Rock in her original season.
Rigged.
Rigged.
Sick joke. Rigged.
They want her to be the 2-time winner.
One thing that television networks are really good at, and production, is just completely changing their entire season at the drop of a hat in order to protect the player that might potentially be going home. They will throw out months of preparation. They will destroy everything that they've put out and meticulously planned that runs like clockwork most of the time, and they'll just stop it, change it up completely, because one player could potentially get votes tonight that we're not 100% sure yet. We have no idea what's going to happen, but let's just do it anyway. That's what people are assuming happened here. Like literally millions of dollars of production. They'll just change it at the drop of a hat. It's ridiculous.
Can I just jump in real quick?
No, you can't. I'm going to put you back in Redemption Rock.
I was about to go, don't you dare! No, I actually wrote down, because I was thinking about when I got home.
This is going to get very deep. Mucky made notes for this one?
I know. Oh my gosh. Every player that's been saved by a non-elimination. And most of the time, they aren't big players. You know, normally they happen actually right after a big player goes, or just before a big player goes. Like in season 1, we had Nick and Christy. They were saved by non-eliminations, essentially, right? But they definitely could have saved it for Phoebe when she went out. Yeah. You know, in season 2, we had Tara saved, and she screwed over AK, who was like the biggest villain that season. In season 3, you had the what is it? It's like that necklace, but you couldn't vote. If that makes sense, you had to vote for someone who couldn't vote for. It was Dead Man Walking. There we go. They did that straight after Matt and Benji went out back to back, the 2 biggest players of that season. And then also, exactly, with Peter in season 2. Like, you know, kind of throughout Survivor, you know, like they said Ben in Blood versus Water, you know, they could have saved Sandra. They saved Sophie over Sandra. You know, if Australian Survivor was rigged, they would have saved Sandra. They would have put the
I don't think it is
on David. Yeah,
exactly. I don't think it's rigged personally. I know Zuduman is like, now this one's definitely rigged. This wasn't even something that had the challenge or something pre-made. It was something they could say on the spot. And I agree, they definitely could have added this anywhere into the game.
We have the non-eliminations like in around week 4, like every season, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty predictable.
Every single season. Yeah.
And listen, it doesn't mean any of us like it, but like I said, they're at least trying to be creative with it this time. I'm a big fan of Mutiny. I enjoyed seeing the Mutiny come in this episode because it gave them a choice to make. Only one person was going to be able to mutiny. They had to choose if they were going to write their name down or not. And for me, the biggest question was, would Simon write his name down knowing that he's at the bottom and he was potentially going home in that spot, or he thought he was potentially going home in that spot? Would he write his name down with his mate Sean telling him to go over there and get Sneaky Steve from the Spice Girls, lure him away? You know, I actually for one second thought maybe Liz feels comfortable enough with her new alliance that she would stay and continue to, you know, pull a Zen hen and work with that alliance so that he can bring it into the merge, or she could bring it into the merge potentially. But, you know, ultimately Simon does not take the risk. Liz is the only one who takes the risk, which in hindsight is a smart thing, because if you think there's any chance that someone else is going to write their name down, if it's not you being drawn out of the 2 options, you now have something to answer to in that tribe. If you weren't at the bottom, you're definitely at the bottom at that point. What do you think, Kuna? What did you think about the mutiny twist as a whole and how it played out?
Yeah, good. Like we said before, if they're going to have non-elim rounds, tribals, then that's a great way to do it. And I think, you're right. Liz made the right choice. I thought as well that she might stay, because I said that I thought that 4 was really going to start doing something, but I think she'll wait for them to come and join her in the merge, and she gets to go over there, because regardless of how she feels about her 4 at the villains tribe, she's still not with them originally, and there could be that doubt. Why not go back to George and Shani where it is safe until merge, right? They're definitely getting to merge at this point, because they've got Matt and Flick able to get rid of before merge, so they've got 2 there. She's getting there as long as she gets over, and then she can reconnect with her group that she made at the villains tribe. So it's great. It's smart that she did it. Simon, poor Simon again, with Sean just going, "Yeah, mate, go away." We don't. I literally
want
don't
you.
want you here. Like, which is, he's just love me, please, Sean, love me. It's so great.
Zudemania says, well, I can see why Simon didn't stay because the other, or why he stayed, because the other tribe has Flick and George, so he probably felt it would have been worse. Probably would have been. I feel like, where does Simon go at this point? I mean, George is going to absolutely dismantle him when they finally get into a merge if he's not with the numbers. And I just want Simon to wake up and realize I don't have any numbers. Like he said, he's a gun for hire. So become a gun for hire at the merge and say even to George, listen, I try to get you the whole game. You know, if you can't beat them, join them. And you've got all the numbers. I can be your lapdog. You could use me for a vote or two at the bottom. As long as I survive a few more rounds, you never know what's going to happen and what opportunities are going to come from the fact that you've got a few people falling out of the game. More and more people might want to use Simon as a vote. Plus, Simon's best game right now is to say, I don't think I'll win. I've completely had everything wrong at this point. You want to sit next to me at the end because I just want to be able to say I've made it to the end of the game after having one of the worst starts in Survivor history. I just want to get there. I don't think for any second I could actually win the game. You should probably take me. I feel like that's his best strategy right now, Mucky.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I don't think that's going to happen though.
No, I don't think he's got the force. I don't think he's the pride. He's got pride. Like, there's no way he's like, I can't win, type of thing. It's not going to happen.
I can actually see him being the first merge boot. It's just like, we could go for George, we could go for Sean, we could go for Haley. Who knows? But you know what? Everyone's just mad at Simon. Let's just, let's just not go for each other just there. Why not we just dump everything on Simon? Just get him out of here.
Puts the boots in, finally kills him off. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You've got to ask yourself, could Simon be the reverse JT? That, he plays his two worst games the first two times that he plays the game and then comes back the third time and wins unanimously playing a perfect game. Well, I think JT almost played a perfect game that season. Could that be Simon? Could he be the Benjamin Button of Survivor, Kahuna?
I mean, he hasn't shown us anything that would suggest that would be the case. So I don't know. Like, hopefully, like you'd hope that
you can't even
from your first to your
you can't
second.
even fake it for the poor guy.
No. Like you hope that he'd learn from the first to the second. I think a lot of the stuff has been circumstantial. Like, yes, he's done it, but it's almost like if you squint, you can kind of understand it, where he's coming from. I do think the thing that he said with George would be interesting because imagine George's ego if you said to him, beat me at the tribal council.
At the final tribal.
The final tribal, sorry. And George would just salivate up the opportunity of eviscerating Simon one-on-one or like in the final three, depending. But he would love that opportunity. And he may, if presented, he could take
I think you break. I think if you're someone sitting at final tribal council and you want to mentally break George, you vote for Simon. Like, that would be like the ultimate revenge for George running the season, So I don't know if I would risk that sitting next to my nemesis at the end if I know that everybody on tribal might.
George probably sees that as well. George probably knows. Yeah.
So I guess the only other part of this that I still wanted to sort of talk about is the fact that Liz goes over. She ends up, in the next on Survivor looking like she's potentially going to be butting heads with George, which is going to be exciting because we know she's got a bit of bite to her. She's now, like we said, matured as her own player. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing what Nina ends up doing now because they've lost the numbers. So that next tribal council is going to be 3v3. If Sean and Haley are smart enough to use Simon as a vote, Nina and David and Sam no longer have the numbers there. So it's going to be interesting to see which way it goes. Plus, Sean's got an idol in his back pocket. So that could still come into play and potentially take out one of those three if they get a little bit of a whiff that those three are coming for them at this point in the game. Unless Sean just does the easy thing and take out Simon. But I feel like Sean is an opportunist and he might see this as an opportunity to vote out somebody who he really wants to vote out at this point in the game. What do you think, Mucky?
Oh, you're talking to me. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Back up a second. No, I don't know. I feel like you have a clear alliance of 5 right there that's been there since the start. And then you have Simon. So I do think that the easy way out is actually Simon. And while, they've got clarification now that, it was definitely like it was a clue that not like an intentional fake card or something. But I don't know. I can maybe see Nina pulling off the first ever Australian Survivor 3-2-1.
Wow, but cool.
I can see that. Yeah, I can even see Sean going in the spot because I think they know merge is coming. So I can definitely see Sean going or Haley going. Yeah.
I don't think Liz is going to turn on George because I think Shawnee will keep Liz in check to a degree because I think Shawnee and Liz are just too close and Shawnee doesn't want George to go anywhere at this point. So I do think that it's probably there's going to be a blow up, but I think George is going to have to learn to just suck it up to a certain degree. Gabe here says that way George gets Haley and Sean on his side. That's true. Do you think Liz will turn on George? So same question.
Liz has to turn on George. And,
at some point,
Liz has
she's
to
not
turn
beating
on Shawnee. She has to turn on Shawnee if she wants to win the game. She can't sit next to Shawnee at the end. Do you think as a rookie she knows that?
I don't know. I don't know if she's got the foresight. I mean, there's not many rookies she could team up with at this stage. She's only got Matt and Jerry and David.
But there are veterans that you would rather sit next to than a Shawnee.
Simon.
Like, besides maybe George, is there anyone you'd rather sit next to? Like, would
Flick?
be on the worst. No, I mean, as far
Flick
as
has got a great social game, so I don't
know.
know. I don't know if I want to sit next to Flick.
True. So I don't know. Like,
Sean's well respected. Haley's would become a 2-time winner if she makes the end. How do you not vote for her? Shawnee, you would definitely not want to sit next to.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So Liz has to get away from Shawnee at some point if she wants to go far in this game.
Yeah. I feel like Liz's best chance to win this game is to somewhere either pick Simon and make peace with him and bring him in, or team up with newbies that have got less game than her. That's the only way I see it at this point, because I feel like a lot of returnees would probably beat her at the end at this stage still.
Yeah, probably. Now that I think about it, but
no, you would not. You would not. He would win.
What about like you mentioned before, Sam? I reckon she'd look good next to Sam.
For audio listeners of this, Lachlan's lad has said, Steve, you'd want to sit next to Steve, and Mucky's taken real offense.
You would not. You would not.
Steve should go to the final two. Him or Simon would be the or Jerry. Either three of them. Jerry would probably have more sympathetic vote than the other two. So Steve and Simon would have to be the number 1 and 2 people you'd want to sit next to.
I don't know, Lachlan's lad. I feel like Sam still has an opportunity to win this game, personally. If he pulls out some moves. I don't think I know that people outside of Survivor don't like him. I don't feel like people on the island don't like him. I think people think he's a good dude out there. So I think he would have a chance.
Do you think he can spout a resume at the end? What's his speech going to be? You know what I mean? Like,
I think if at the moment he hasn't done too much yet, right? But he could be like, I came into this game, I was in the Heroes tribe, I was all about loyalty, trust, and mateship. And then I learned that Sean betrayed me and he turned his back on me and he was going to take a shot. And I just survived by, Geordie not playing an idol. And that woke me up. And I decided that I need to work with David and Nina. We need to form a counter alliance and we need to, work our way from the bottom to the top and infiltrate and work with the enemy and George and Shawnee and, get to the top of this pyramid that we're at the bottom of at the moment. And then I made blah, 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 blah moves. I feel like there's still enough game for him ahead of him to be able to spin a story at this stage.
I think that gameplay could definitely play out, but he's not going to be the one that can put it on his resume.
Yeah, you just don't think he can articulate it.
But it's not going to be his moves. He might be in that 4. He might be in the group that actually did get through Shawnee and George. But I think a Nina or a Liz, or maybe so far what we've seen from David would actually be the driving force before Sam ever would be.
David winning would be the shock of the season at this point if he won, because
he's not winning. But I just meant
someone mentioned earlier. I forgot to mention him in one of the alliances because he's so under the radar. Ellen says, who do you think will benefit the most from the merge and who will be at a disadvantage when they merge? At this stage, I think Sean and Haley, if they get to the merge, are going to be severely disadvantaged because they're at the bottom. Nina, Sam, and David wants to work with Liz and her crew. So I think that's going to become a new power structure at the merge. So I think the biggest winners at the merge would be the likes of George and Shawnee, because they think they're at the bottom right now. I don't know if what Nina and Sam and these guys are doing. Like for Sam, it's the right move. I don't know if Nina should be making this move. I don't know at this point, but they'll at least be at a good spot. So definitely Sean and Haley is the biggest losers in my mind, Kahuna.
Yeah, I mean, once they've got the numbers right now, but once they run into that big group again, it could be all over. Like if they are smart enough, George has crazy moves. We don't know what's going to happen, but if they're just smart enough to play the numbers properly and use it effectively from the get go, rather than letting ego or I want to do a big play. But the big play is to get George out and get George out fast. You don't want him going deep, so they need to do it. But we'll see how it plays out.
Tion says, I'd be pretty insane if Nina ends up winning this season as a hero while Sandra wins it as a villain. I would love to see that. I don't know if she will, because I feel like she's been very under-edited. But then again, I know some people say it doesn't matter as much. So maybe she still has a chance. I mean, she's coming out now. So I'd love to see this game and a different way of editing a winner where you just didn't check in with them for the first 2 or 3 weeks that much. And then suddenly in the 4th week, they're like, bang, this is when they woke up. Because it kind of makes sense. She even admitted she's been playing a low-key game. Gabe says it's got to be how Jeremy got voted out. Natalie went on revenge path. That's the only way Liz gets Shani out before her. It's fair. Also, Chardude, thank you for the $2 saying, who do you think will go first, Simon or George? I think George is going to go first, Kahuna. I'm gonna put a bold move out there and say Simon gets to the end. I feel like Simon is a losing finalist.
Really?
Someone's going to see the value. I think someone's going to see the value in taking Simon to the end. It's too big of an opportunity.
Yeah, I would for sure. But I don't know. I don't think he's got the relationships. Like he's like to be out. I don't know where like you said, he's got nowhere to go. So someone has to, in order to glom onto him, turn away from someone they've already built and are going strong with. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I don't know. Like it would be the smart move. I can't see who's doing it though.
Yeah, I like to be unpredictable every now and again with my reads. I think I could very easily see it go the other way, but I just don't think George makes it to the end. I honestly just don't. I feel like he's going to have too much of a target. If Simon can survive 1 or 2 votes after the merge, people might want to use him as a number because they know he probably won't win the game, and at some point they're going to want to take. Imagine this. Simon the whole season's been trying to take out George and has been failing miserably in the pre-merge. And then finally, Mucky, he gets it done after the merge.
I don't think he's going to. I can actually see George.
Do you really want to agree with Kahuna? Do you really want to agree with Mucky? Do you not want to change your take here?
Oh, man. Hang on. Let me rethink.
No, I could never see a scenario where, we talked about earlier, how funny would it be if George did just, take Simon with him to the very end? That would be pretty funny. George, Simon, Sneaky Steve.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Velvet saying Nuna's edit might pick up during the merge, especially since the OG Heroes tribe seems very boring. That's true. Tion saying that's gutsy with my call. And Ellen saying, how's everyone's drafts going? Apologies, we've still got the draft to do. I didn't do the points this week because I just haven't had time to update the points. So we'll get that updated next week.
Yes, I reckon Chris is winning.
No. I was ahead prior to this. I'm pretty sure I would still be ahead because this is where we were heading into this season. So I had 3 people on him, and then both of us ended up losing someone this week. I ended up losing Geordie, and you ended up losing Benji.
I forgot I had Ben on my. I thought Ben was on your team, so I was Chris lost 2 of his people, but
yeah, so confident, eh? So you are down to 5 people, and we're not even at the merge yet, Bucky.
Well, if it ain't the consequences of my own actions,
Hey, David's getting confessionals now.
Yeah, exactly. He's not even like if he starts getting 1 confessional per episode, it's less than those 0. Yeah, it's worse than the 0 confessionals he's been ranking in all the points for you. But you do have, I think, in your team, you do still have a chance with Shani at least.
And Steve.
He's gonna die on that hill, eh? So for me, currently, I feel pretty confident about George. I know I said he would probably go before Simon, but there is also an upside where if he does win this season, I think someone asked if he would be the most dominant winner. Chad asking if George would be the most dominant winner in Australian Survivor. How can he not be after the season he's had so far? Like, he would probably, I don't know if he'd be the best. Maybe he would be. I don't know. But we'll have to see how the rest of the season plays out. But he'd definitely be the most vocal and loud like winner we've ever had.
Best performance anyway, right?
Yeah.
Best like what he can do.
Most explosive.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and he's great TV. He's such great TV. So I feel like George still has a shot. I do feel lower on Sean right now than what I have been feeling. I think Sam is somewhere in my top 5, which I know people don't want to hear. And I do think Liz has got a shot. She's back on my radar as well.
She's my new winners pick after convincing myself tonight. I want to see that rookie beat everyone.
That would be impressive, right? That would be really.
Yeah.
And Maddie's starting to get some content as well. You know, Maddie's seeming to be someone that George wants to work with, which is interesting. So we could even see some more from Maddie moving forward as well. Let's have a look here. If there was any other comments that came in, Mucky, you got Shani, Jerry, and Simon.
I was just about to bring up Jerry. You know, I can totally see Jerry and Sneaky Steve just flying under the radar. You know, the two oldies. You know, who's coming after them? Who is coming after them? I think if Stevie makes a merge, he is locked in for the final 4 at least. Because why would you take out Steve?
That's fair.
Like straight up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that necessarily because he's not a challenge beast. He's not going to beast out a bunch of challenges.
He actually has been. He actually has been. Because once he takes off his glasses, the beast mode comes out. It's rigged though, so I'm not sure.
Velvet says, I don't know, Liz seems like someone who goes later in merge to weaken Shani, kind of like what happened to Vanilla. I can see that. I can see that as well. I don't think they both get to the end. I'll make that call. It's one of them's going to get sniped along the way, most likely, because people are going to start seeing how close they are. But they also may look at Nina as one of those people that are very close with them. Anyways, that's it for tonight. I think we've gone over everything, really, for this last week. Thank you to everybody in the live for being here, taking part in the conversation. The show is way more fun with the questions coming in, so I really appreciate the great group of live viewers we've had here tonight. For those that are watching this at a later stage, please consider subscribing, hitting the like and notification bell. It is the best way for us to continue to grow this platform, and also for us to be able to hopefully in the future bring in some exciting guests as well as the channel continue to grow. We've just hit 1,500 subscribers this week, which is a massive achievement on the channel. Thank you everybody for supporting and loving the content we've been putting out. Keep an eye out over the weekend for my top 5 takes on episode 12. I know it's going to be very late by this point, but I'll probably put something out. It's been, like I said, a busy week. I've just not been able to get back to it at all with work being as busy as it has been. But for now, thank you so much, everyone. Chadu, thank you so much for the $3. Really appreciate you, mate. And we'll catch you. We'll catch you guys next time when I'll be back with both Chantal and Drew to do my Challenge World Championship draft. That should be fun as well. There most likely will be a sabotage round again because we love to sabotage each other's picks, which is a lot of fun. So keep an eye out for that. Talk to you guys later.